1 month after a brutal shark attack, fierce teen surfer proves nothing can stop her from catching waves. Bethany Hamilton is one of the most popular and successful female surfers out there. But it's not only her competition winnings that make her so inspirational, but her comeback story that is a result of what happened to her at the start of her career, when she was barely a teenager. After being attacked by a shark, the resilient and ambitious girl made her way back to the waves in just a matter of weeks, and she's been soaring through the sea like a master of the ocean ever since. From struggling with rehab to dealing with the media, how did the sweet and innocent teen make such an incredible comeback after such a traumatic experience? Let's dive down and find out. Born, raised, and living in Hawaii. Born and raised in Hawaii, it's no surprise that Bethany Hamilton has a huge place in her heart for the ocean. Not just that, but she's got water sports in her blood, as Bethany Hamilton was born to a family of surfers. She was born to parents Tom and Sherry Hamilton on February 8, 1990, and was the youngest of her siblings, Noah and Timothy. Little did they all know that she would become one of the most legendary surfers around the world. But of course, every hero has a hefty backstory with many obstacles to overcome before they reach the top. Starting out great at 8, as soon as Bethany could get herself on a surfboard, that was it. She poured her heart and soul into the sport and excelled beyond belief before her teenage years. She began surfing when she was 8 years old, and was already ready to start competing by then. So, in 1998, she signed up for the Relson Menehune Surf Competition in Australia, and placed in first. How exciting! And about a year later, she already started to receive sponsorship offers. Talk about impressive! Becoming a pro at age 11. Bethany worked hard during her preteen years to be the best that she could, and at the sweet, energetic age of 11 years old, her professional and competitive career took off. 2 years later, in July 2003, Bethany competed in the National Scholastic Surfing Association, NSSA National Championships, and placed in second, another incredibly impressive win. She was clearly meant for great things, and never would have expected her world to turn upside just a few months later. What exactly got Bethany into competitive surfing in the first place, though? A pot of gold for talent and incredible surfers. It's common knowledge that Hawaii is one of the best places for surfing, and what's more motivating than living around some of the best around? The rising surf star was surrounded by a super supportive community who were well-rounded with the sport. Where I grew up is just like a pot of gold for talent and incredible surfers, so I constantly kind of was like, lured to just push myself and be the best I could be. Bethany enthusiastically shared with The Hollywood Reporter during a 2019 interview. A little ocean person. Bethany was the only one that felt like she was meant to be a woman of the water. Her two older brothers always encouraged her to chase after the big waves, and others were catching on too. Susan Bobo Ballins, longtime family friend and fellow surfer, told ABC, "I consider her a little ocean person. I'd say she has salt in her blood. She lives and breathes the ocean. She gets the big waves. She doesn't mess around. I have said to myself, there's the next world champion, placing in the top 3. While some of us probably think that surfing is the best in the summertime, it all depends on where you're located at. For Hawaii, the surf season is in the wintertime. It actually starts in the end of autumn from November going all the way to the start of spring in April." The 13-year-old girl was having the time of her teenage life, spending as much time in the water as she could. She had just placed top 3 at the NSSA National Championships, and was ready to reach the top. But it would be right before the upcoming surf season that everything would truly change for her. October 31, 2003. November couldn't come any sooner, but the surf-off season was going to stop Bethany from hitting the waves. On October 31, 2003, Bethany, her best friend, Alana Blanchard, along with Alana's father and brothers, all went to see if they could catch some waves. They made their way to Bethany's most cherished surf spot, the tunnels. Overall, the water was quite calm and with a gleaming reflection on that beautiful autumn day. Bethany was laying sideways on her board, enjoying the sun rays, when she suddenly felt an excruciating sensation that came out of nowhere. Calm before the storm, I was laying on my board sideways, and then the shark came up and grabbed a hold of my arm, Bethany explained to 20/20. Everything happened all too quickly. 1 second Bethany was laying on her board, and the next she felt something grab at her arm. It wasn't just a grab, though. It was an aggressive and agonizing pull. She quickly registered what was going on and knew she needed to just pull herself together and make sure she doesn't get dragged down to the sea. A 14-foot white shark, A shark had gotten hold of Bethany's left arm, but it wasn't just any shark. It was a 14-foot white tiger shark. Talk about terrifying. I was praying to God to rescue me and help me, Bethany revealed to 20/20. There were so many things going through Bethany's head during the next few minutes. First thing first, was she realized she needed to keep a clear mind to handle the chaos. I think I figured out that if I panicked, then things wouldn't go as good as if I was calm, she further revealed, trying to stay calm. While Bethany was trying to stay calm, she also knew she needed to make sure she stays above the water for her own safety. Surprisingly enough, though, the shark didn't actually drag the little 13-year-old girl down to the ocean's floor, and as lucky as that was, it was still up to no good. I was holding onto my board with my thumb because I probably didn't want to get pulled under. The shark was like pulling me back and forth. Not like pulling me underwater, it was like pulling me back and forth, and then it let go, and then went under, Bethany explained to 20/20. An intense sport. Surfing can be quite an intense sport, especially when you're trying to catch and ride some intense and massive roaring waves. But can you imagine what it must have been like to be in the middle of calm water, and then caught in the middle of chaos? Which makes the young teenager's mature mentality throughout the entire incident that much more inspiring. The shark had finally wriggled away at Bethany's left arm, and then suddenly disappeared. With all of the shock and adrenaline, what just happened didn't seem to have truly hit her until she looked down at the water. One bite, two bits. From start to finish, the entire incident happened so quickly that the other surfers that were nearby barely even saw or comprehended what was happening, let alone that it was an actual shark that was attacking her. The 13-year-old surfer was so focused on holding on for dear life and staying calm that she didn't even realize the damage the shark had done. The 1,400-pound shark had taken one 16-inch ferocious bite of her precious surfboard, and as she continued to look down even further, she realized that her entire left arm from below her shoulder was severed and missing, a brightness in her eyes. As soon as the attack was over, the other surfers immediately ran to her rescue and rushed her to shore to get the medical attention that she needed. Once she got there, the young, innocent teenager almost kicked the bucket. She had suffered a severe attack, and the injury caused her to lose an intensely large amount of blood. Everyone was heartbroken by the situation, however. The resilient and ambitious girl pulled through and knew she was going to be okay. When I first saw her in the hospital that morning, she looked really pale, but she had a brightness in her eyes that I could just say, you know, she's going to be all right. Bethany's mother, Bethany Hamilton, shared with ESPN. What about her sponsor? Bethany was in a stable condition and pulled through all the procedures, but that didn't mean that the hard part was over. The tough teenager was now one limb down and needed to adapt to a whole new life, and learned how to do everything with one arm, including how to surf, which she was still set on doing. Bethany lightheartedly confessed to ABC that during all of the chaos, she recalled that, I had this one pretty funny thought. I was thinking, I wonder if I'm going to lose my sponsor. Even through all the chaos of the incident, it was clear that her passion for surfing was going to drift away, craving the salty ocean scent. Bethany wasn't just extremely calm and strong during her unexpected and excruciating shark attack. She was incredibly tenacious and resilient about making a speedy recovery and adapting to her new life. Even after this traumatic and tragic experience, she craved the salty ocean scent and taste. The inspiringly strong 13-year-old surfer worked hard to get herself rehabilitated and adjusted to it all. Quickly, she started learning how to paddle with one arm, maneuver her way around the crashing white foam waves in a new way, and was ready to get back in the ocean, starting with longboard. When it comes to surfing, beginners should typically start with long and soft boards. And so that's exactly what Bethany did. I just kind of started off on a longboard and worked my way down on boards, and just slowly adapted with persistence. And you know, there's always struggle days. I don't know. I'm stoked I didn't give up, Bethany revealed in an interview. Bethany's powerful passion is what helped get her through all of the tough times and get her back in the water during her rehabilitation. But how was she able to cope with everything mentally? Always a go-getter. It looked like nothing was going to stop her from chasing her dreams of becoming a professional surfer, not even a 14-foot tiger shark. The real question was, could she actually make it happen? I've always been very driven, ever since I was a young girl. Just very go-getter attitude and not the type to let little bumps in the road slow me down, Bethany shared with The Hollywood Reporter. Within a few weeks, the inspiring surfer had found herself back at it again, catching the beautiful white foam waves just a month after her injury. Can you believe it? Sometimes, age makes a difference. It's clear that due to her strong emotional and mental state of mind, the tough teenager was able to bounce back into shape, even after such a severe injury. But years later, she claims that it was something else that helped her cope and get through such a wild time. It's almost nice that it happened when I was young, 'cause you're so much more adaptive when you're young. I'm just excited to keep on improving my surfing and surf good waves. Bethany shared on Bethany Hamilton. How does she do it? My fear of losing surfing was greater than my fear of sharks. The amazing and ambitious surfer was absolutely right. Even though she had to endure something so traumatic when she was barely even a teenager, it was her youth that kept her strong, resilient, and adaptive. After people heard her inspiring story of overcoming something so intense and fearful, they were left to wonder where her courage came from to go back into the water. Bethany explained to The Guardian, "I think most normal surfers that aren't overly fearful, they don't paddle out every time with a deep fear that they are going to be bitten. Even though I have been attacked, my fear of losing surfing was greater than my fear of sharks, making the impossible totally possible." Bethany wasn't just set on surfing again, she wanted to start competing as well. Just a few months later, in January 2004, Bethany hopped back on her board and soared through the NSS regional event, placing in 5th. Talk about exciting. And a few months later, in the summer, she earned a spot as a finalist at the NSS national competition for the 18 and under portion. Throughout her teenage years, she continued to compete, blowing everyone away with her unexpected high rankings. Bethany was making the impossible totally possible, and people were catching on. Mine have to be good. Bethany opened up to The Guardian about what it's been like for her to compete after returning to the water in the late 2000s. "One arm might handicap me a little in competition, but I just work with what changes I know I have to make, and I'm pretty used to it now. It mainly depends on the wave conditions. I only get half the waves everyone else rides, so mine have to be good." Bethany wasn't just becoming one fierce female surfer, she started to gain quite a big fan base. And it wasn't just her sick surf style that people were gushing over. Tons of heartfelt fan mail. "I get tons of letters. People saw that I didn't give up on my dreams. I kept surfing. It helped them out a lot, and that just shows that good can come out of bad stuff like this," Bethany shared with 20/20 in a 2003 interview. It turns out that Bethany's whole entire comeback story was what truly touched everyone. And as incredibly heartwarming as it was for her to know that she was inspiring others, all of the fame did start to take a toll on the passionate teen. Being put in a box, the positive and passionate teen rolled with the punches and figured out how to get back to the thing she loves most, the ocean. But becoming a pro surfer with high rankings also came with a whole bunch of fame, which can sometimes be uncomfortable or hard to deal with. Being often called Shark Girl, disabled, all these different names for me, it always kind of felt like being put into this box, and I couldn't just let go of my goals and dreams, Bethany revealed in the documentary Unstoppable. So how did the sweet, innocent teen deal with all of the fame and press, so much more influential to her? "I just tried to block my fame out of my mind a lot of the time, but then, I don't know, I'm often so driven to share myself with the public, because I'm constantly greeted by people who have had their lives changed by hearing my story," Bethany confessed to The Hollywood Reporter. Even though she was a big fan of all the fame, Bethany quickly learned that her fans would be so much more influential to her than she ever expected. "It's really motivating in the sense that I'm doing more than just living my life. I'm sharing it, and helping others along the way," Bethany further revealed. Not just living her life, sharing it. With an immeasurable amount of determination, drive, and passion, Bethany was breaking boundaries and achieving her dreams. And with the extra emotional stress from the press, the optimistic teenager found a way to look at it in a heartwarming way. Bethany shared with The Guardian that, "I didn't set out my life to have a great impact or anything, but it is really beautiful to see all the good that's come from what seems like such an awful thing." The older Bethany got, the greater her appreciation for her fans grew. She loved the fact that she was able to simultaneously chase her dreams and passion of surfing, while inspiring others in the process. So much so, that she started planning a big surprise for everyone. The teenage tale of Bethany Hamilton, shredding waves and collecting trophies through different surf competitions, was the only thing that Bethany was up to. In 2011, the biopic film Soul Surfer was released. The movie told the tale of Bethany's valiant and encouraging story, based off of her autobiography of the same name. Bethany was touched that a movie based on her personal triumph tale was made, but she wanted to take things a step further and really show the world what she was up to in more recent years. From her teens to her 20s, Bethany's backstory was clearly riveting and heartfelt, but as she transitioned from a teenager to a woman in her 20s, she was ready to share with the world even more about her. Originally, Bethany had an idea to collaborate with a director to shoot a short film about her action in the water, in order to inspire other female surfers. But the director, Aaron Lieber, felt like she had so much more to share than just 12 minutes of cool action shots. The amazing and aspiring Aaron Lieber. The amazing director Aaron Lieber was beyond inspired by Bethany and her entire life story, and had envisioned a whole entire documentary about her. While she initially was expected a short film, the idea of doing a full-length documentary started to sound more and more exciting. For me, I wanted to do it all and accomplish even more than I may be though I could, and so filming the documentary just kind of opened that opportunity to really focus and just do it, Bethany enthusiastically shared with The Hollywood Reporter. Little did Bethany know that life had one more surprise to throw at her. I couldn't even talk about it without crying. The mid-2010s were incredibly eventful for Bethany. In 2013, she married the love of her life, Adam Dirks, and about a year later, she started production for her documentary, Unstoppable. The documentary took a few years to complete, but during the first part of production, the newlyweds received an incredible surprise. It turns out that Hamilton was pregnant with their very first son. Entering motherhood was a whirlwind, and I definitely had a lot of trouble and fears come into my mind, and just moving forward. At one point I was like, let's just not do the documentary. I couldn't even talk about it without crying, Bethany confessed to The Hollywood Reporter. Let's just keep moving forward and see what happens. Surprisingly enough, the fearless surfer quickly started to feel overwhelmed with the idea of becoming a mother. She didn't only feel concerned about being a parent, but she was worried that she wouldn't be able to balance a life between mother and surfer. Thankfully, though, her secret power of positivity kicked in. I wasn't sure of the future, but I realized that hey, I'm still gonna be able to surf, and I don't know exactly how things will pan out, but let's just keep moving forward and see what happens, Bethany explained to The Hollywood Reporter. Motherhood is definitely the most beautiful gift. It's normal for expecting parents to be nervous before giving birth, especially with their first child. But in June 2015, little baby Tobias was happily welcomed into the world by Bethany and Adam. Bethany further shared with The Hollywood Reporter, motherhood is definitely the most beautiful gift I've ever received and been able to be a part of in my life. And yeah, I kept surfing too. How adorable. And in March 2018, the happy couple introduced another adorable son, Wesley Phillips, into the world. And just a month later, the amazing documentary was finally released. Keep paddling forward no matter what. Not only did Bethany find a balance of playing the role of mother and pro surfer, but she was able to continue filming the documentary and even include her little one in it. Till today, Bethany is breaking boundaries, encouraging female surfers, and inspiring people from all walks of life from her teenage tale. I think so many young people are really facing more than we realized, and I'll see the surface of them with a quick hi and a photo, but I don't know what's the deeper rooted kind of things going on in their life. But I know that them seeing my story can make a huge impact. I'm excited to share more and do more, Bethany enthusiastically shared with The Hollywood Reporter. She appreciates absolutely everything in her life, and if surfing has taught her anything, it's that the key is to just keep paddling forward.